Friday, everyone, and welcome to the Rotary Club of Fort Worth. For our invocation, let's welcome to the stage Evan Eastman, Business Account Manager with Spectrum Business, who will be followed by Harriet Harrell, Principal of the Harrell Group, playing our national anthem.
Father, as we gather together today in gratitude for the opportunity to make a difference, please grant us wisdom to lead with integrity, kindness to build stronger connections, and humility to serve zealously. We ask you to please help us honor the four-way test as principles in all that we do. Please guide us in our efforts so that they bring positive change to our communities and the world. Please help us use words that inspire, actions that uplift, and service that will leave a lasting impact. May we never lose sight of the joy in giving and the unity in shared purpose. Amen.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose rough stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets' red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Thank you, Evan and Harriet. Now, to welcome our visitors is John Laudenslager, broker owner with Black Tie Realty.
Almost forgot I had duties today. Good morning, everyone. Happy Friday. Great to have all our regular Rotarians, and we are very grateful for the guests that have chosen to join today. Will you please rise when I call your name to be recognized? John Nichols, guest of President Rebecca Montgomery. Priscilla Miller, guest of past President David Campbell. Alexander Cummins, guest of Alana Long. John Kirk is a guest of Corey Harris. Jody Newton, guest of Chris Cobbler. Where's Chris? Jody. Larry Kemp, guest of Chris Jordan. We got Mr. Andre McEwing. Hello, Andre, guest of Chris Jordan. And Efrain Frias, guest of President Rebecca Montgomery. Thank you all, welcome, hope to see you again soon.
Thank you, John, great job. And we also want to give a special thank you to Creative Office Furniture, our program sponsor for the day. Creative Office Furniture began more than 30 years ago with a vision of innovative office spaces with design creativity. The creative team is passionate about finding the perfect solution for your project for years to come. Thank you for your support. All right, everyone, it's that time to recite our four-way test. This four-way test is our roadmap to how Rotarians are supposed to conduct our lives, not just with each other during this hour between bell rings, but in every interaction we have with one another. For our visitors, view the screen. First, second, is it fair to all concerned? Third, will it build goodwill and better friendships? And fourth, will it be beneficial to all concerned? Great job, everyone. Now it's that time. time for the newscast. Let's give a warm welcome to the amazing Kathy Neese Brown, Chief Strategy Officer and VP Mission Support with the James L. West Center. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, so Evan just said in his prayer, grant us wisdom to lead with integrity, kindness to build stronger connections, and humility. Well, here goes. Okay, here goes. This newscast is hard. The last time I had faith in the news, it was Huey Lewis. I'd like to say it gets better, but okay. I feel about his welcome as one of the 17,000 Boeing employees fired on Monday. They were shown the door, and it fell off. Right? Think for a minute, if Isaac Newton hadn't been born, Boeing would be credited with discovering gravity. Dan, I left banking alone. You'll be fine. Neurologists say that human interaction is important to brain health, but I'm willing to risk it. Yeah. This is kind of touchy. I'll give you a heads up. Positions open. The executive turnover rate at Hezbollah and Hamas is now higher than Boeing's. Business is booming in the Middle East. The profits are flying through the roof. Last month, John Bon Jovi saved a woman from jumping off a bridge. Thank God it was John who found her and not David Lee Roth. Okay, the song Jump, right? Oh, wow. Okay, rap mogul Sean Combs has gone by different names over the years. They include Puff Daddy, Sean John, Puffy, and P. Diddy. And now he's known as 374-52054. Today's the 40th anniversary of the premiere of The Cosby Show on NBC. To celebrate, everyone should take a drink followed by a 14-hour nap. Three more. Here's another wow. NBC's Saturday Night Live began on October 11th, 1975, 49 years ago. What an insane era. It was the only TV studio in history where the nosebleed seats were in the green room. Okay. It's the month for ghosts and such. I saw a terrifying Halloween movie trailer that shows a human hand reaching up from the grave. It's Pete Rose placing a bet on the Yankees. Yeah? Okay. And in closing, soon we get to I know you love me. And in closing, soon we get to celebrate Halloween. Every Halloween, I tell my friends I'm going as Amelia Earhart. And then I don't show up at the party. That's the news.
Thank you, Kathy. Well, it's announcement time. We have 3 announcements today. We're going to start with Ms. Deanna Stewart, Vice President Philanthropy with Cancer Care Services, sharing an update on the impact our Rotary community grants are having in our community. She'll be followed by Ed McLinn, insurance consultant with Champion Commercial Insurance, who will share details on an upcoming Rotary social you will all want to join in on. And they will be followed by Bill Fairley with an update from our Veterans Committee, an announcement coming from him. Ms. Deanna.
Thank you, ma'am. Do we have that little slide? Maybe not. Oh, there we go. Glasses, please. Thank you, Fort Worth, Rotary Club of Fort Worth, for the $5,000 grant to purchase therapeutic sand trays, kinetic sand, and figures for our young clients at Cancer Care Services. These sand trays have been utilized for 5 to 18-year-old clients who are experiencing cancer of a loved one in their home. When a parent or sibling is diagnosed with cancer, it can have a profound impact on the family, especially the children, in the form of adjustment disorders, anxiety, and depression. These children use these sand trays to reconstruct and process the trauma and chaos that they are experiencing. In one of our recent kids' camps, an 8-year-old little guy placed a superhero figure next to a smaller figure in his sand tray, and he explained that the smaller figure, he said, "This is cancer, and the superhero is my mom fighting it." So thank you, Rotary Club of Fort Worth, for supporting the emotional needs of our youngest clients at Cancer Care Services.
Thank you, Deanna. Ed?
Thank you, President Rebecca. Looks like we're going to have a concert after today's meeting with all this setup, so stay tuned for that. Just kidding. Anyway, good afternoon, everyone. The first new member I would like to wrong notes. On behalf of the Social Committee, mark your calendars for Tuesday, October 29th. I'm happy to announce our next Rotary After Hours, which will be family-friendly, at Courtside Kitchen over on Rogers Road behind University Park Village and all that, from 5 to 7 p.m. $25 will get you 2 complimentary servings of beer or wine and a selection of delicious appetizers. This is open to families and also anyone you know that's not currently members of our club, so they can come find out about Rotary in a very casual setting. Anyway, in order to get a good head count, we have a QR code. No QR code yet. Well, keep your eyes on the rotograph. We should have one next week. And purchase your tickets today. If you have any questions, please ask me, John Laudenslager, or Aurora. Can't wait to see everyone at Courtside Kitchen on the 29th. And stay tuned for more upcoming events, including Tuna Christmas at Casa Manana and Rotary at the Rodeo. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Ed. Mr. Fairley?
Thank you, Madam President. On behalf of the Veterans Committee, I wanted to announce that we're going to have another great Veterans Day program the Friday before Veterans Day, November the 8th, I believe that is. And for those in our club that are veterans that have not already supplied a photo to Aurora, preferably in your uniform, we would please ask you to do that, because we're going to honor our veterans by having a slideshow, and we've done this in the past. So please get a photo to Aurora if possible. And we are also going to participate again this year in the Veterans Day Parade on Monday, November the 11th. So we encourage anyone that would like to come down and ride on the float, or walk beside the float, or drive the float, or whatever. We would love for y'all to do that. We'll gather in the parking lot of what I still call the Tandy Center parking lot down there, around 11 o'clock on that Monday. So we encourage everyone to come. And if you have any questions, please ask. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. Deanna, thank you so much for what you shared, and we're glad that we're able to be a part of that here in our community and helping those in need, especially our young adults, our children. Also, thank you, Bill. I know your committee has been working really hard. It is amazing what that committee is doing. Today, we had 10 people in attendance at the Veterans Committee meeting. It was awesome. And then there's always fun. Ed will always bring us something to do, have a good time, get to know each other. So everyone, we are a membership organization, and we would not be here if it was not for all of you and for all our new members. So please give a welcome to our Rotary Secretary, Christina Judge, Executive Director with the Mental Health Connection, with 2 first readings.
Thank you, President Rebecca. This is very exciting. Today we have 2 first readings. The proposed members are Alan Blaylock, title Senior Product Manager, company retired, classification telecommunications. Proposer is immediate past president Kirk Driver. Second first reading is Stacy Guillen Bridges. Her title is VP of Client Relations. Her company is CMP, Classification Human Resources. Proposer is past President Courtney Lewis. If no written objections are received in the Rotary office by October 25th, these proposals will be given a second reading and voted on by the club. Thank you.
Thank you, Christina. Now, with this excitement, we have 3 new blue badgers. That's right. You know who you are. Make your way to stage. We have Meredith Holler, Mark Lucas Kelly, and Michael Martinez. Come on out. Come on, get right here. And we're going to do a photo right here real quick.
That word, I just thought of some witty remarks.
Come over here, we're going to do a quick photo.
Okay.
Rebecca, you want a photo?
Yes, yes. Come on over.
We did it right. Okay, appreciate it.
Glad you're here. Thank you. Thank you. Good to see you. All right. What a fun day. Second readings, new members, blue badgers. I know there's a lot of visitors in here, and we can't wait to help you get your red badge. Yes, I'm looking at you. Now, everyone, please help me welcome our chairman of the day, Mike Herman, Chief Administrative Officer with Whitley Penn LLP, who will introduce our speaker for today's program.
Thank you, President Rebecca. Our club is fortunate to host speakers representing many aspects of our community and not too many begging for your pocketbook. Today, we are excited to have a longtime Fort Worth resident with one of the largest companies in the world that has significant operations in Fort Worth. Dan Burse has been Chief Executive Officer since August of 2005 and President since April 2003 of General Motors Financial Company, which was formerly AmeriCredit Corp. He previously served as Chief Financial Officer and in other executive positions since 1990. General Motors Financial Company, known as GM Financial, is the captive finance subsidiary of General Motors, providing financial solutions to auto dealers and consumers globally. The company is headquartered in Fort Worth, Texas. Now for some big numbers to grasp the enormity of Dan's responsibilities. GM Financial has $137 billion in assets and 9,000 employees. For reference, the parent company, General Motors, has $257 billion in assets and 163,000 employees as of year-end last year. Us accountants like numbers. Prior to joining GM Financial, Dan spent 14 years, including 4 as a partner with a CPA firm that was a predecessor to PricewaterhouseCoopers. He currently serves on the board of this club, Fort Worth Economic Development Partnership, and the Lena Pope Home Foundation, and previously was board chair or president of several charitable and civic organizations, including the Fort Worth Chamber of Commerce and Cook Children's Healthcare System. He is married to Annie Burse and has 3 adult children and 9 grandchildren. Please join me in welcoming Dan Burse.
Good afternoon. Pleasure to be here today. I see a lot of friends and familiar faces in the audience. This is the first time I've had the chance to address this illustrious group, so it's my pleasure. I got a little bit of a crutch up here. Usually when I present, I can see my slides, so you have to bear with me. Clicker. Oh, okay. All right, GM Financial is General Motors' captive finance company. They own 100% of our equity, but otherwise we're a fully infrastructured company. In fact, we're a public reporter, if you know what that means. In other words, we file our results every quarter for the public because all of our debt is publicly held in the name of GM Financial. We have operations in all of General Motors' major markets. You can see on the map, North America, South America, China, Indonesia. We've only got a small presence in Europe. General Motors sold their Opel brand in Europe back in 2017, and when they sold their brand, we sold our finance company there. We have about 6 million retail contracts outstanding. We service 14,000 dealers worldwide, and we have earning assets of about $121 billion at June 30th. By the way, we report our earnings on Tuesdays, so all this stuff is as of June 30th instead of September 30th. So our U.S. footprint, we have 13 what we call regional service centers where we do all of our underwriting for loans that we get in from dealerships. We've got 4 customer service centers where we do all of our customer service activities, collection activities, and loan processing. And of course, our headquarters is here in downtown Fort Worth, Texas. We got a big presence in the DFW area. In fact, we are the largest private employer in downtown. We have about 1,300 employees in Burnett Plaza right down the street here. All told, we have about 4,000 employees in Tarrant County and another several hundred in Las Colinas, so giving us nearly 5,000 employees in the Metroplex. We're big supporters of the community. It's one of our core values. In fact, we encourage people to volunteer and give civically and charitably. We give 8 hours off to our people a quarter so that they can do volunteer activities. Some of the things we support are our so-called signature events, our March of Dimes, Salvation Army, and United Way. We're also very active. We're the title sponsor for the Parade of Lights here coming up in a few weeks. We're big supporters of Fort Worth Economic Development and all the chambers. In fact, my CFO, Susan Sheffield, and I both have served as past chairs of the Fort Worth Chamber. Otherwise, charitably, we're big supporters of Union Gospel, Mission, Tarrant County Food Bank, and many, many others. A lot of our executive leaders serve on boards, and yes, we are a big sponsor and advocate of Crystal Ray School that, in fact, we're going to expand it, I told Mr. Mitchell here next year. Another thing not on this slide is that we're really big on financial literacy. So we've got a program called GM Financial Keys, which we present in a lot of high schools, a lot of universities, a lot of youth groups. It's really all about teaching our youth financial literacy so that they can know what they're doing when they get into the workforce and have to take out credit or manage a checkbook or manage a budget period. Next slide. I'm gonna really go through the evolution of our company a bit. We're often confused with GMAC, which used to be General Motors Captive. We're totally different. General Motors bought our platform, AmeriCredit, back in October 2010, about 14 years ago. The old GMAC, General Motors sold half of it in 2006 as General Motors' financial condition was deteriorating before their bankruptcy. And then during the bankruptcy, the Treasury, of course, bailed out General Motors, but they also bailed out GMAC. And when they did so, General Motors ownership got pushed all the way down to about 5%. So when they both came out of receivership, there wasn't that commonality of interest anymore. So GMAC went on their way. They're now called Ally Bank, really have nothing to do with General Motors anymore. So GM bought our platform for $3.5 billion 14 years ago, renamed us GM Financial. When they bought us, we were really US focused only, doing only subprime or high risk lending. So since then, we've really evolved our platform. In fact, from 2011 to 2013 is really where we developed a lot of different products, including prime lending, leasing, commercial lending, which are loans to auto dealers for real estate and inventory. And then in 2013, we bought all of the old GMAC outside the US, which is really what got us into South America, Europe, China, Indonesia. Big expansion in 2014 to 2016, where we really took on the full brunt of being General Motors captive. 2017 to 21, a lot of investment in technology, digitization, customer experience, hit a lot of milestones in terms of earnings and assets. And then more recently, we've started a couple new businesses. One is a traditional auto insurance business, which I'll talk about briefly in a few minutes. And then the other is what we call protection products, where if you go to buy a car at a dealership, you can purchase an extended warranty or maybe a prepaid maintenance policy. So it's various F&I related insurance policies. Captive value proposition. This is really our purpose for being, and it's really four parts. Number one being to help drive General Motors sales, and we do that by really collaborating with General Motors on go-to-market strategies. So, there's always a deal in the market, whether it's cash on the hood or a low interest rate financing. So we're constantly working with General Motors to figure out what the best way to drive sales is. And then, we also drive a lot of leads to GM dealers. So when somebody's at the end of their lease or loan, we shoot that to a dealer so that they can contact the customer and hopefully sell another GM vehicle. Next is enhanced customer service and loyalty. This is by providing a really high-level consumer experience. In fact, our NPS scores, our consumer ratings are off the charts for a finance company, and we've had 9 straight years of leading the industry in loyalty. What that means is if somebody finances through GM Financial, they're more likely to buy a GM vehicle again than if they finance through any other finance source. So it's really a big loyalty play for the parent company. Provide support across economic cycles. We maintain a really strong balance sheet, a lot of liquidity, because during periods like COVID, we had to step in and dealers were closed in many parts of the country, so we had to step in and really defer their inventory payments, make rescue loans to them. Consumers during COVID with very high unemployment, we deferred payments and worked with them so that they could stay on track with their loans. So that's why we keep a really big balance sheet with a lot of cushion. And then finally, contributing to enterprise profitability. We have to make money in our own right, make a good return in our own right, because as I said, all of our debt is raised off of our balance sheet, not General Motors. Next slide. Okay, I can't do a presentation without doing a little commercial for GM. They are the #1 retail seller of automobiles in the U.S. They led again in the third quarter of 2024. The most profitable franchises for vehicles in the U.S. are full-size pickups and full-size SUVs. GM is #1 in each of those categories. We've had 9 straight quarters of retail sales increases, which is an incredible record. And then finally, I'm going to talk about EV sales a bit. We sold 32,000 EVs in the third quarter. Some things you need to look for coming down the road is we have a new GMC Terrain coming out, which is a mid-size GMC SUV. And then we're in the process of redesigning all of our full-size SUVs. The Escalade is already out, the Tahoe is already out, the Yukon and the Suburban are here to come. And then from an EV standpoint, as I said, GM sold 32,000 EVs. In the third quarter, our market share in the US is now 9.5%. Tesla has just under 50%, so they dominate, but we're the #2 sellers at this point. EV penetration in the US is about 9% today. Contrast that with China. China just crossed 50%. In Europe is close to 20. So, there's a lot of barriers in the US to EV ownership. They're more expensive, range anxiety, and then of course the charging infrastructure isn't there yet. But GM has got a lot of product out that very attractive and affordable. So the Equinox EV and the Blazer EV are probably some of the most affordable EVs on the market. And then of course on the higher end, we've got the Lyriq, which is Cadillac, and then the Hummer, which is our kind of marquee GMC. So some financial highlights. So this stuff gets into the numbers. I can't help it being a finance company. The pictures and the vehicles are much more fun. But we're a big part of General Motors. We're a big part of General Motors results. You can see on the left-hand side here that the upper part of the bar, we've made as much as $5 billion in a given year. That was 2021, I believe, where we really had some good tailwinds from credit. People during COVID paid their bills better than they ever have, and then we got a big updraft from used car pricing. But we're typically anywhere from 25 to 40% of GM's earnings. On the right hand, or excuse me, in the middle, this is the amount of loans and leases that we originate every quarter. It's ballpark 50 billion-ish a quarter. And then on the right-hand side, this is the growth of our earning assets. The September 30th number is closer to 123 billion, so we continue to show really good growth. All right, this is just a snapshot of our retail loan portfolio. We originated about 5.4 billion of new GM vehicles globally. I'm sorry, that would be in the US in the third quarter. We also do a lot of used car finance. Which in this chart, again, looking at the right-hand bar, 2.3 billion, and then we originated about $1 billion of loans in South America. Our China joint venture is unconsolidated, so we don't report the results in our origination numbers. We just pick up 50% of the earnings, and I'll talk about that a little bit more. A couple other key stats here is we finance in the US 38% of all the vehicles GM sells, which is a big number. You can see the billions. Our portfolio is really high quality. So even though our roots were subprime with AmeriCredit, now our average credit score is 742, and 76% of the portfolio is prime. And then, our average yield is about 8.5%. So the best auto loans today, you can get about a 6% rate without help from the manufacturer. And then, of course, we risk-based price, so the further down the spectrum, the more we charge. Talking about credit just a little bit, I'm not going to drain this slide, but consumer credit has really performed quite well for us. The prime consumer is solid as can be. Where we've seen a little bit of stress is the non-prime consumer, where they've been more affected by inflation, cost of living, affordability of everything. But overall, our credit metrics, have remained, very solid. Leasing is another big part of our business. We originated 4.2 billion of leases in the September quarter. We do also leasing in Canada and most of our foreign markets, but leasing is really not as prevalent outside the US and Canada. So in South America, Mexico, we do very little. China, even less. But it's a really important product here. The kind of greenish line going across the chart represents the residual value. So in a lease, the customer really pays for only the difference between the financed amount and the residual value plus interest. So at the end of the lease, the customer has the option of returning the vehicle to us or buying it outright. And in the last few years where used vehicle pricing was really high, a lot of customers chose to keep their vehicle, maybe trade it in, but they really had pretty good equity. And I'll show you that on the next slide. On the right-hand side, used vehicle prices were a big part of inflation in the U.S., the story in 21 and 22. In fact, used vehicle prices were up about 66% in a pretty short period of time. They've kind of trailed off now, but they're still quite a bit higher than where they were at the beginning of 2021. So what we saw with that escalation in used car pricing is that most customers at the end of the lease chose to keep their vehicle. That's the stats on the left-hand side. So, more recently, only 24% of the leases that terminate, we've gotten the vehicle back. Historically, it's been more like 80%. So, big change in our business, but as used vehicle values continue to moderate a bit, we should get more vehicles coming back to us. And then finally, commercial lending. This is our business of providing inventory finance, real estate finance, working capital to dealers. We finance about 50% of the GM dealers in the U.S., what's impressive about that number is we only started this business in 2012, when we were building out our captive capability. So we basically had 0% share. So we've grown this quite a bit, and the total book is about $19 billion now. I'm not going to go through these too elaborately, but we've shown growth in earning assets, equity, liquidity. I mentioned before that we have to provide support, across economic cycles. So we maintain, on the lower right, about $36 billion of liquidity. What that means is, in a very short period of time, that's the amount of cash we could get our hands on to continue our business. So we size that liquidity in the event that we really couldn't raise any new money for, say, 9 months. So we could go 9 months and continue our business without raising money. Equity is, $15 billion, so, really good, strong balance sheet at GMF. Raise a lot of money in the markets to fund our business. In fact, we're the top asset-backed security issuer in the U.S. year in, year out. We're a top 10 unsecured debt issuer. We're investment grade rated BBB. But we finance most of our businesses in local currency. So if we have a need for funding in Brazil, we'll do it in Brazilian real. If we have funding in Mexico, we do it in Mexican pesos. And likewise in China, we do it in renminbi. So we try to raise money so we don't have currency risk. Sometimes we have to take currency risk, but generally, we don't. We issued $24.3 billion of securities in the first half of this year, so on the way to a pretty big amount. And we've got credit facilities of about $28 billion with 26 different global banks. All the domestic names you can think of, as well as European, South American, and Chinese banks. All right, I'm going to talk about China a little bit. Again, I'm not going to go through these charts. These charts are many of them are used for investor relations purposes, probably not as easy for this audience to absorb, but the market in China has been really challenging for Western automakers. In fact, domestic Chinese automakers like BYD or Chery or Geely have crossed 50% market share for the first time. A short 10 years ago, their market share was in the single digits. And what they're benefiting from is a lot of government subsidy. The government is really supporting these domestic manufacturers, making it really difficult for Western automakers. So a company like GM is required to have a joint venture partner in China. So our joint venture partner is a state-owned company, but all the other US and European OEMs have a partner as well. But the domestic champions are the ones that are supported by the government, and they're getting more and more share. Plus, as I mentioned before, they call them NEVs, new energy vehicles. Mostly EVs in China are greater than 50% now, and that's really where the Chinese government has put the money to really support NEV sales. So with all the Western automakers having difficulty, General Motors sales are 30% of what they were 10 years ago in China, the joint venture. And so because we finance their product, our joint venture has also been shrinking in terms of asset size. You can see that on the top right. We're still profitable, but not near as profitable as we were just a few years back. We have about 800 employees in the joint venture in China. I get to go there a couple times a year, so very interesting what's going on the ground there. And then, quickly talking about our insurance businesses. So we started what we call GM Insurance just about a year and a half ago now. We're in 8 states, including Texas. It's really to provide insurance products just like Geico or Progressive or Allstate. And the advantage we think we have is threefold. Number one, access to the customer at the point of sale or in the service lane. Geico has to spend billions on advertising. We don't think we have to with access to the customer. 2, the vehicle itself produces a tremendous amount of data about driving behavior. And driving behavior is the most predictable variable in setting risk premium. So there's obvious things that the vehicle kicks off, but things that aren't so obvious either. For instance, you may be driving the speed limit, but the vehicle can tell with cameras and sensors that everyone around you is going 10 miles an hour less. So it might be raining, snowing, so you're not a safe driver even though you're going the speed limit. Hard braking, fast cornering, seatbelt usage. We can pick up all that data. Everybody, yeah. We have what's called the perfect trip, which means no hard braking, no fast acceleration. To me, the perfect trip is getting there as fast as possible. But anyway, we're excited about this business. And then the other business we have is this protection products, the aftermarket products. GM managed this post-GMAC for about 10 years. Quite frankly, they'll admit they undermanaged it, so they turned it over to us a couple years ago. And we've begun to grow the business now. And, this will be $1 billion business for us in just a few short years. And wrapping it up, GMF, we call it GMF, GM Financial, has a really experienced management team. I'm really fortunate that, it's been 14 years since GM bought us, but my senior leadership team, for the most part, has stayed and helped us grow the platform. We have a comprehensive suite of products now, so we can service consumers and dealers' needs across finance and insurance. We've got a really strong balance sheet, able to raise a lot of capital. I didn't talk a lot about our customer centricity, but that's one of our big values is delivering a high-level customer experience, because one of our core values is to get people back in a GM car. So, what better way to do that is to provide great experience. We do it multi-channel, so they can reach us phone, chat, email, voice, every different ways. And we've got a lot of technology and a lot, by the way, I didn't talk about it, but a lot of Gen AI we use both in the loan underwriting and loan servicing areas. And then finally, great track record. I mentioned GM bought us for $3.5 billion back 14 years ago. We've made 25 or 30 billion since then and paid them dividends of about 10 billion. So it's been a great investment on their part. And I can tell you they're a great partner and owner. So with that, I can take, do we have time for a couple questions? And thanks for the phone, by the way. That was really helpful. Here first.
So it's a little bit of an interesting evolution, and I would be curious if you have some insight. I know you're on the financial side, so you may not be the best person to address this, but looking at EVs in the EV market, part of the traditional dealership model has been heavily focused on profit centers out of service, whereas with the EV vehicles, there's practically zero service. There's tires, windshield,
and brakes.
Well, and rarely the brakes, because most of them are used for general braking.
They are, but the weight of an EV is really stressful on brakes.
And especially if you're talking about a Hummer.
Yeah, 9,000 pounds.
So, do you have any insight as to, is that resulting in some of the resistance to the traditional manufacturing sector to going towards more EVs more aggressively? Or is there a plan to offset that profit loss?
Yeah, so I mean, GM has about 4,500 we call rooftops, dealers across the country, and you know the level of adoption for EVs amongst dealers is all across the board. I mean, you can imagine there's dealers in Minnesota that don't like them because they're afraid the battery's going to degrade in cold weather, but there's dealers in California that are all in. So we at General Motors provide a tremendous amount of training and support to dealers to make sure their salespeople are knowledgeable, make sure that the dealer principals buy in, a lot of incentives for carrying EVs and selling EVs. In terms of profitability, that's a tough part of the equation, period. There's not an automaker in the US besides Tesla that makes money on EVs at this point. And in fact, in China, BYD is the only company that makes money on EVs. So the whole profit equation between the automaker and the dealer is really going to shake out. But specific to your question about service, penetration's 9% now in the U.S. The average age of a car in the U.S. is 12 years old at this point. That's a long tail before the service business really starts to fall off. And it's kind of a TBD in terms of exactly what maintenance is going to be required. I can tell you if you have a body shop, EVs are a dream because when they get in a wreck, they typically have a lot more damage because of the weight. Our insurance business tells us that too. But any question about GM's on the table too, because I'm on GM's senior leadership team, and Mary Barr is my boss. So I'm meeting with those people, once a week at least. Okay.
How do you turn off the tracking of my driving?
You drive the Corvette.
Well, you may not be eligible for our insurance product. That's all I can tell you.
Does GM manufacture any batteries?
Yes, as a matter of fact.
For EV?
Yes. We have 3 battery plants that are operative in the U.S., one at full capacity in Ohio. I just visited their battery plant in Tennessee about a week ago. And then we've got another one going up in Michigan, and then there'll be a 4th in Indiana. But we have 3 of the plants. We have a partnership with LG Solutions, which is a Korean battery maker, and we make all of our own batteries for our vehicles. And then in Indiana, we're going to be partnering with Samsung to make vehicles. Really important for us, all of our contenting for battery and EVs is North America based. So we don't bring anything in from China in terms of battery technology or batteries themselves. But we're doing everything vertically in-house.
Two-part. Just curious, but no footprint in all of Africa and Australia on your map. And 2 very different questions. Is there any credibility to the rumor I've heard for years that a private equity group is trying to purchase the Pontiac sport line and do something with them because, y'all did away with them? The GTO and the Le Mans, et cetera.
Yep. So General Motors sells vehicles in parts of Africa and actually pretty successful in the Middle East as well. Egypt is a pretty good market for them, but we don't have a finance company set up there. For us to really be relevant in a market as GM Financial, we have to have enough scale. And then the regulatory environment for finance has to be right. And those markets, neither meet the scale equation or the regulatory aspect for us. I mean, there's markets in South America, for instance, Ecuador, Argentina, that GM's pretty successful in, that we don't have a presence. Argentina, it's because of inflation. It's really hard to run a finance company. Ecuador doesn't have the scale. I mean, Uzbekistan, GM has a 90% market share, but we're not there either.
James?
Oh, the second part of your question, I really don't know anything about the Pontiac. Okay.
James?
I noticed on the chart that your market share is shrinking in China quite a bit. Why do you all continue to stay there? And obviously, you're stacked against.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good question, and it's a question that General Motors management is evaluating. Our joint venture agreement runs through 2027. And the joint venture partner is hurting too in terms of, they're 50-50, so that market share decline is hurting them as well, and they're state-owned. So we're in the process of restructuring to see if we can get the joint venture on better footing. And we've got some new product that we're putting in market too that we're optimistic that's going to pick the share back up. But between now and 2027, there's a lot of hard decisions that have to be made.
There's been with the EVs kind of a rise in software-based features that you unlock with like a subscription monthly. How do you see that changing?
Yeah, it's a big deal, and I can tell you that Mary will say she got kind of behind the curve on software development. She was using kind of the legacy software organization, but things have really changed. The legacy software used to be 150 different controllers. Now everything's on like a regional platform with CPUs, and that's totally a different skill set. So she's brought in a lot of people and leaders from Google and Alphabet and Amazon and Apple, and they're really refocusing on the software skills necessary. The subscription part of the business, of course, we have OnStar, which is about a $2 billion a year business, which is very successful. But over-the-air updates are going to be more and more prevalent, where you can get your car updated and repaired, updated and maintained, I should say, with over-the-air updates. And then the hands-free driving, we call it Super Cruise. Everybody's got a different name for it. That typically comes for a few years free with the vehicle, and then you can upgrade it. You could up it for a subscription fee. So that's a revenue stream that we're looking to unlock. Again, with this new talent, we think we've got a good insight on it.
We've got one more question. One more right here.
If the tariffs are implemented, how do you see that impacting auto sales and refining?
Yeah, well, China, we really don't move anything back and forth to China. GM doesn't, we don't. Money or otherwise, we get dividends back, but we don't raise money here and send it to China or vice versa. And GM, I think to a very small extent, maybe imports one low-volume vehicle, and if they weren't able to do that, that's fine. So they're really we're really operating China and the West as two separate universes. So the tariffs wouldn't affect us, China. Now, probably the one that concerns us the most is there's been talk about tariffs on vehicles made in Mexico, moved to the U.S. We make 30 or 35% of our vehicles in Mexico, and so does Ford, so does Stellantis, so do a lot of the other OEMs. So I don't think that'll happen, but that'd be the only one I think that'd put us all at risk.
Thank you so much, Dan, for being with us today. You were awesome. Dan, thank you. Wait a moment, Dan, I have one more thing. Dan, can you come back? Dan, come back. Oh, he was returning the cell phone. He's returning the cell phone. I thought we were going to do a selfie with it real fast, first. Thank you so much for being here today. And if you have a few moments afterwards, I think there were additional questions. I have some questions too. But I have to ask, show of hands, how many people in here are a GM owner?
It should
Fantastic.
be about 17%.
Fantastic. Awesome. We'll work on that. We will work on upping that. Thank you so much for your time today. We appreciate it. And to show our appreciation, we have this for you. That is a donation in your name to the Rotary Polio Plus Foundation.
Awesome.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
You can stick around. We appreciate it. Okay, I do have to say I'm a bit concerned about some of the drivers in this room. We might need to avoid each other at times. Thank you all for being here today. We have a few closing announcements, and thank you guests for being here with us, and look forward to you guests joining us, as I mentioned earlier, again in the future. Thank you to our sponsor, Creative Office Furniture, and to our past Rotarian, Gordon Boswell, who left in his legacy these beautiful floral arrangements we have here every week, every Friday. Don't forget, if you're a veteran, how many veterans are in the room? And we have all of your photos. We need your photos. And if there's a Rotarian who's a veteran not here today, please let them know we need their photo. We want to include that and recognize them. If you'd like to participate in any way, please let Bill know or Aurora know, because that is coming up November the 11th. Also, a couple more announcements. Today, Finance Committee will be meeting at 1:15 p.m. in the Rotary office. And you do not want to miss our special guest next week, our very own Rotary District 5790 official governor's visit. That's right. Governor Andy Eads of Denton will be joining us. Have a great weekend, everyone. We are adjourned.